All right, welcome back to another episode of the StichMethod. This is going to be a special announcement video and then a quick lesson at the end. So really quickly, we're just going to talk about the announcement. As you know, I do go live usually every Thursday at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time to talk about certain guitar issues. Now, the truth is that when I'm there live, I'm talking to about 200 people, and it is so much fun to have every single person there. And if you haven't been there, get there. You can get the notifications of when I go live by clicking on the bell icon next to the subscription button. But that's not what this is about. A lot of people, when you watch that in replay, it's kind of disorienting, and I totally get it because you can't see the chats coming in, so it looks like I'm just talking randomly. But I'm engaging live with everyone there, and if you've been there, you understand. But if you haven't been there and you watch it, again, it does look a little odd because I'm just addressing issues out of nowhere to a person who's watching it in the replay. So I don't feel like alienating anyone because I started this lesson channel to show everyone at least my thoughts on how to play the guitar. So because of that, what I'm going to do now is a new format where I launch every Tuesday a professionally done video, kind of like this one here, right, where it's all nice on the DSLR. And then the following Thursday, I'm going to do a lesson recap for that particular lesson live, where I'll address questions I get in the comments, and I'll address questions in real time so that I can still, party with my live folks, but at the same time, people who want to get the lesson that was inside of the live thing without hearing all the banter back and forth can watch it on Tuesday in the professional series. So I hope that all makes sense. So Tuesdays is going to be a launch of the professional series, and Thursdays will be a live follow-up Q&A. Also, I'm going to go through a lot of my live feeds that I had some really cool lessons on that I don't think a lot of people watch because, again, it was in a live feed and it's really distracting to watch through a half-hour stuff for the 15-minute lesson. So I'm going to go back through my live content and kind of take all those lessons I really thought were good and put them in a professional series. And so that's going to be happening because, again, all the stuff that's on there is really good, but I understand how the format presented to some people might be a little off-putting, and that's not my goal at all. So with that being said, let's get on to the quick lesson. My last beginner lesson was about taking your eyes out of the equation, helping you feel your way around the guitar. And this one is another quick tip about getting smooth in your playing. I was teaching my student Barry last night, and I told him about this, and I said, why haven't I presented this to StichMethod, which is your seam work. So let's talk about seam work. Seam work on guitar is the ability to take, when you're learning a riff, two pieces or more and put them together with no stutter, no pause, no nothing. A lot of people, when they learn a riff, they learn it in chunks. For instance, if you take Black Dog by Led Zeppelin, you get, mentally the first riff is boom, 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 right? And then the second riff, pardon me, I just got out of the shower and it's still dripping. Great video. So, a lot of people, when they learn Black Dog, are going to mentally split it up into this riff number one, and then when they get it, they go, yay, I did it, and then riff two. And when you think in riff chunks, you get something like this in your playing. And you can hear that pause there, and that pause is not because you're looking or not looking. That pause is because you haven't practiced your seam, where the two riffs connect. Music never stops in a song. It always is flowing into tempo. So in order for you to get into playing bigger riffs without any pauses, you have to practice where your mind stops with your first riff and starts with your second riff. So for instance, what I mean by that is take riff number one of Black Dog, and that's my last note, which goes to the first note of my second riff. So the first thing I would do is I'd play the first riff and then practice my seam, like so. Because that little junction between riff 1 and riff 2 is where you're going to pause, because mentally you have to think of what's my next riff. But as you blend them together, you start to sew your seams together. You can do this in any song where you have a pause, where you realize where physically it might be a long distance to travel, or you have a mental break where you have to think about where you have to go specifically. The the practicing the seam work is huge. For instance, I was practicing a Door song with Barry, which went like this. You all know it probably. Really? That's me. There it is. I'm allowed to mess up. I keep my takes and I don't care. So here we go. So you have, here's riff 1 to riff 2, which starts here on the 2nd fret of the D string, right? And so getting there is just as important as completing the first part. And you'll notice, and again, I'm not calling Barry out, but if Barry watches the video, you'll see that what would usually happen, you probably get this. Because you're like, yay, I did riff 1, but now I got to get riff 2. So you always want to take the ending of your first riff, whatever you're doing, and connect it to the first note of your second riff to make one big riff. Right? Whatever song you're working on, whatever blues riff you're working on, whatever you're doing, wherever you have your pause, it's not about going back to the beginning and trying to like bushwhack your way through the riff. And what it is, it's about getting to the part where the junction isn't good, where the seam isn't good, and you want to practice smoothing over. Stop on the last note of what was good and get to the next note of what was not a good junction. Practice that back and forth. You know, it's like laying bricks together. You're gonna have a seam, then mortar, and then you'll put like a piece of like sheetrock in front of it and hide it up. And that's what you're doing. You're building these pieces. And then once the whole riff is together, there are no seams, just one riff. And I can do this for any riff that I've practiced. I mean, from Fish to Grateful Dead to blues to Stevie Ray to Zeppelin to anything. Whenever I was practicing something, whenever I came across a pause in my playing, I had to assess where is the seam, where is it not connecting, and really smooth it over like icing on a cake, or any of the analogies that I've mentioned before. So practice your seam work. That was a text that went off. I feel like that was a timing thing, like Ian, you're done. So I guess I'm done. Practice your seam work and a new format for StichMethod coming soon, probably the beginning of March, because I got some concerts to go to. All right, bye.